Okay, we're going to do a quick walk around on the 74 Dodge Dart Project. 6-cylinder automatic, power steering, power brakes and air. Of course, it's not going to stay that way very long. The bumpers were with the car, but they were removed for transferring the car back down to where we're at now. As you can see, the car has seen better days. Some amateur repairs along the bottom with the rust. And probably the really coolest thing about this car I'm going to show you right now. Talk about custom. I have no clue what would possess somebody to do this to any Mopar. And it only gets better from there when we take a look at the seats. At first the seats were covered with a cloth or a blanket, so they kind of look like 68 seats without the head restraints. And after removing the blanket, we finally figured out that they actually took a Sawzall and decided to cut the tops of the seats off. That was another custom addition that they did to the car. The original steering wheel that they had on when we bought it is off an Impala sitting over on the floor. Column was all busted up, as was the dash not working. You can see a bunch of wires hanging. I personally like the tassels. They really just make it, and the lack of a headliner really improves the inside of the car, as well as the little tassels on the back. You can see some customization on the other door panel. We'll take a look at that in a minute, as well as the really nice cracked windshield. We do have another windshield for the car, however. Let's take a little bit further look. This quarter panel is a little worse than the others. It's got a small dent there, some rust down here. It's definitely repairable. It's not that bad, but it might be easier to throw a replacement panel on it. It's only a few hours work to change a panel out, and certainly more than a few hours work to do the body work to this. Coming around the back, typical trunk lock missing. I'd open the trunk, but they popped off the torsion bar spring, so it's kind of hard to lift. This quarter panel is not too bad, and they even left one of the wheel opening moldings on. Gee, isn't that a plus? Some more amateur body work on the front door. You can take a look at that. The amazing thing is they just went right over everything, the paint and all, and then decided to wet sand it. Let's take a look at the customization on this side. This one's a little nicer than the other. We got the Beatles, Statue of Liberty, all sorts of stuff here. Looks like Jack Kennedy over there. And again, we get a better shot of the interior, along with the custom dash. And there's our steering wheel to the Impala. And again, these customized seats, can't live without those. They took everything out of the centers too, so there's really nothing to support it. At least the door close is nice. Some bind-do on the fender there where they had an antenna. Of course, that just dropped right out because nothing was welded in behind it. 6-cylinder. Now, I did have the car running by pouring gas down the carburetor. I figured, well, let me get a rebuild kit and see if we can get it running without pouring gas down it. Of course, when we took the carburetor apart, everything was stripped out, pieces broken inside, so that was the end of that idea. I do have a 2-barrel carburetor off a 318, and if I get ambitious enough to make an adapter, maybe I'll put it on there and get it running. But all this is coming out anyway. So why buy something like this, and what are we going to do with it? The car was bought primarily to use for drag racing, so it'll never be restored back to original, and a lot of the stuff with the interior, which is messed up, isn't really going to matter anyway. I personally don't like the 74 front end with that, well, you can't see it now because the header panel's off, but the way they come to a point. What I'm going to try to do is find a 70 or 71 front end and swap it out. It looks a lot nicer. The engine will be a 360 stroker motor. And of course the transmission and rear will be changed. I have 727 and 904 transmissions, a couple pumpkin rears and a Dana rear. So we'll see what goes into the car as the car gets built. But at any rate, the one thing that was nice about the car is it was undercoated when it was new. So everything underneath is pretty much rust free. There is a couple little tiny spots, but nothing really major whatsoever. And as far as all this primer, that's just cosmetic. Once the car's sanded down and a little bit of body work done and stuff like that, it just paint it up, it'll look just fine. The doors are in good shape. It's hard to tell from the primer, but they are straight. And like I say, the front fenders, all that's going to be replaced. 74 was a big bolt pattern with disc brakes. Of course, the wonderful thing is they replaced one of the calipers with a Chinese caliper, and that started leaking, even though the factory original one on the passenger side is still working. So anyway, this is a quick look at the car, and we're going to take some more pictures of it and document the car as it gets built. Just wanted everybody to see what the car looked like from the start, and we can look back at some point and see how it looks when it's all finished. Now the car is going to be built on a frame machine. There's going to be a lot of suspension work to the back. I don't like personally working on the ground. So over here is our frame machine. The pulling towers were removed to make it easier to work around the car. So this will go up on the frame machine. It'll lift it up off the ground about 1.5 feet. The center section's open, so you can climb down inside there and work on it. The car will be backed on to the machine, mainly because of the lifting mechanism right here. If we pulled the car straight forward on, that would be kind of where the wheels are setting and kind of get in the way if you want to climb down there. So anyway, the next thing we'll do is take some pictures of it when it's up on the frame machine, and take a look underneath the car and look at some ideas of how we're going to change the suspension and go from there. Hey, I hope you enjoyed everything, and keep checking back as we progress through the build. Thank you.